For 43 years, Michael Jordan carried a faded photograph of Elena Martinez in his wallet, the girl who believed in a skinny boy who got cut from the basketball team, the girl who waited for him while raising their secret daughter alone, and the woman he found fighting for her life in a hospital bed when he finally came back to keep the promise he made under an old oak tree. In the quiet town of Wilmington, North Carolina, in the fall of 1978, Michael Jordan sat on the cold gym floor with his back against the wall, knees pulled tight to his chest. Tears streamed down his face no matter how hard he tried to stop them. He had checked the varsity list 5 times, running his finger down every name, but his wasn't there. Cut. Coach Lynch had pulled him aside after practice and said he was just too small, too skinny for the team right now. Work harder, kid. Maybe next year. The words still burned in his ears. Basketball was the only thing that made Michael feel like he mattered, and now even that was gone. The empty gym smelled like old sweat and floor polish. The lights were off except for one buzzing overhead, casting long shadows across the court. He thought nobody would see him like this. Then he heard soft footsteps near the door. "You okay?" a girl's voice asked gently. Michael quickly wiped his face with his sleeve and looked up. She was new, standing there in a denim jacket covered in colorful patches, long dark hair falling over her shoulders. He'd seen her around school the past week, but never talked to her. "I'm fine," he muttered, trying to sound tough. "Just leave me alone." She didn't leave. Instead, she walked closer and sat down on the floor a few feet away, hugging her knees like he was. "You don't look fine. It's okay to cry, you know. I cry all the time when things hurt." Her voice had a soft accent that made her sound warm, like she actually cared. "I'm Elena Martinez. We just moved here from Puerto Rico." Michael glanced at her. She wasn't laughing at him or calling him weak. She just sat there, waiting. Something in her eyes made him want to talk. "I got cut from the basketball team," he said quietly. "I practiced all summer, every single day. Coach said I'm too small. Picked another guy who's taller instead." The words came out shaky, and fresh tears stung his eyes. Elena nodded slowly, like she understood more than he expected. "That sucks. Really bad. But you know what? My dad always told me when you fall down, you got 2 choices. Stay down or get back up swinging. Sounds like you're the kind who gets back up." She smiled a little, and for the first time that day, Michael felt a tiny spark of hope. "I don't know anything about basketball, but you look like someone who loves it a lot. Want to tell me about it?" They stayed there talking until the sky outside turned dark. Michael explained the game, how it felt to dribble and shoot, the rush when the ball swished through the net. Elena listened like it was the most important thing in the world. She asked questions, even silly ones, and laughed when he teased her about not knowing the rules. By the time they finally stood up to leave, Michael wasn't crying anymore. The next afternoon, Elena met him at the outdoor courts near his house. She had never held a basketball before. Her first dribble bounced straight off her foot and rolled away. She chased it, laughing at herself. "I'm terrible at this," she called out. Michael grinned despite everything. "Yeah, you are, but you're trying. That's more than most people do." He showed her how to shoot, standing behind her to guide her arms. Every day after that, they met at the same court. Elena got a little better each time, but Michael improved even faster because teaching her pushed him to figure things out himself. She would sit on the bleachers, doing homework, and look up every few minutes to cheer. "That one was perfect, Mickey. You're gonna be unstoppable one day." Nobody else called him Mickey. It felt special, like she saw something in him that the coach didn't. One November afternoon, Elena showed up with a small blue notebook decorated with basketball stickers. Open it, she said, looking a little shy. Inside, on every page, she had written short messages in her neat handwriting. You are going to be better than yesterday. Don't give up, Mickey. I believe in you. There were 52 pages, one for every week of the year. Michael's throat got tight. No one had ever done anything like this for him. This is the best thing anyone ever gave me, he said, hugging her for the first time. Elena hugged him back tight. You're gonna make it. I know it. And I'll be right here cheering the whole time. By spring, things between them had changed. They weren't just friends anymore. Michael's heart raced whenever Elena smiled at him. Their hands brushed more often, and neither pulled away. One warm May evening, they sat under the big old oak tree behind the high school as the sun painted the sky orange and pink. Mickey, Elena said softly, leaning against his shoulder. Do you ever think about what happens next? After high school, I mean. Michael took her hand. It felt small and warm in his. I'm going to make varsity next year. Work harder than anybody. Prove coach wrong. Then maybe college ball if I'm lucky. He paused, looking at her. But what about us? I don't want to lose this. Lose you. Elena turned to face him, her eyes shining. You won't lose me. You're my best friend, Mickey. You make me feel like I belong here. Their first kiss was clumsy and sweet under that oak tree, the kind of moment that stays with you forever. When they pulled back, both of them were smiling. That summer they were inseparable. One August night, sitting in the same spot, Michael held both her hands and made a promise he meant with everything in him. When I make it big, I'm coming back for you. I'm going to give you something beautiful, something that shows you exactly what you mean to me. You're the one who believed in me first, Elena. I could never forget that. Elena touched his cheek gently. You better not forget me, Mickey Jordan. But I'll wait, however long it takes. They carved their initials into the oak tree that night, MJ plus EM, laughing as they worked the pocket knife into the bark. Just as they finished, a crack of lightning lit up the sky overhead, followed by thunder rolling in the distance. Rain started to fall, but they stayed there a moment longer, holding each other tight. Neither of them knew it then, but that storm was only the beginning of many more they would have to weather. Years apart, pain, secrets, and a love that refused to die. For now, though, it was just two kids under an oak tree, believing the future was theirs to shape. That summer felt like it belonged only to them. Michael and Elena spent nearly every day together, chasing each other across the basketball court, laughing until their sides hurt, and talking about dreams that seemed big enough to fill the whole sky. Michael made the varsity team that fall, and the difference was impossible to miss. He moved faster, shot with more confidence, and played like someone who finally believed he belonged there. After one big home game where he scored the winning points, he ran straight to the bleachers. Elena was waiting with her arms open. You did it, Mickey, she said, squeezing him tight. I knew you could. I never doubted it for a second. He buried his face in her shoulder, breathing hard, feeling like the whole world made sense when she was near. They carved out their own little routine. After school, they'd meet at the outdoor court near his house. Michael showed her how to dribble without looking down and how to square her shoulders for a clean shot. Elena was still pretty bad at it, but she never quit trying. She'd miss the rim by a mile and just laugh, shaking her head. I'm hopeless, but you're a good teacher, she'd say. In return, she kept feeding him belief. Every night she added new lines to his blue notebook. Keep pushing, Mickey. The hard days make the great ones sweeter. You've got a fire in you that nobody can put out. Those words stuck with him. When practice got tough or older guys talked trash, he'd remember her voice and push harder. As the leaves started changing, college scouts began showing up to games. Michael's name was getting around, and the pressure felt real. One sticky August afternoon, he came sprinting to Elena's house, waving an envelope like it was treasure. "North Carolina wants me," he said, eyes wide. "Full scholarship. I can actually do this, Elena." She hugged him right there on the porch, but he felt her shoulders shake a little. They walked slowly to their oak tree as the sun dipped low, turning everything golden. The air smelled like cut grass and coming rain. Elena leaned against the rough bark, wiping her eyes. "This is your shot, Mickey. Your real one. You have to take it." Michael's throat tightened. He took both her hands, holding them like they might slip away. "I don't want to go if it means losing you. What if I get there and everything changes? What if I forget how it feels to be right here with you?" She looked up at him, tears shining on her lashes. "You won't forget. I won't let you. You're going to do amazing things, and I'll be cheering from right here in Wilmington. Just promise me one thing. When you make it big, come back. Give me something that shows me I mattered, that I was your start." Michael pulled her close, kissing her like the world was ending. "I promise, Elena Martinez, you're my beginning, and I'm going to make sure you're part of every good thing that happens after. I love you. That's never changing." The next morning he left. Elena stood on her porch in her old denim jacket, waving until his car disappeared around the corner. She kept waving even after he was gone, one hand resting on her stomach without realizing why. 2 months later, the nausea hit hard. She bought a test at the drugstore and locked herself in the bathroom. 2 pink lines stared back at her. Pregnant. She was 17, alone, and carrying the baby of the boy who had just started chasing his biggest dream. She tried calling his dorm almost every night. The roommate's voice always sounded bored. "He's at practice again. He's got study group. He's out with some of the guys." Elena left messages anyway, her voice small and scared. "Mickey, it's me, Elena. Something important happened. Please call when you can. I miss you so much." No calls came back. Desperate, she sat down and wrote a long letter by hand. She told him everything, the positive test, how terrified she felt, how she still loved him more than anything, and that she would understand if basketball had to come first. She mailed it with a piece of her heart inside the envelope. But the letter never reached him. Elena's mother, Maria, found out about the pregnancy and sat her down at the kitchen table one rainy evening. "Mija, you can't do this to that boy," she said firmly. "He's going places. If you tell him now, he'll feel trapped. He'll walk away from that scholarship and resent you and the baby for the rest of his life. Let him fly. We'll raise this child ourselves. It's the kindest thing you can do." Elena argued through tears, but the fear and pressure wore her down. Her mother started screening calls and mail after that. Elena watched her belly grow and whispered promises to the baby every night. "Your daddy is out there becoming something special. One day he'll know about you. I hope he does." The years passed like a fast-forward movie. Michael became Michael Jordan, the greatest to ever play the game. Championships, MVPs, fame, money, 2 marriages that didn't last. But no matter how bright the spotlight got, he carried that old 8th grade photo in his wallet everywhere. Late at night, after his second divorce, sitting alone in his huge quiet house, he would pull it out and stare at Elena's smile. The loneliness hit harder than any defender ever had. Finally, he hired a private investigator. Months later, the man called with news. "She's still in Wilmington, Mr. Jordan. Never married. Goes by Elena Martinez." Michael felt his heart jump. He was reaching for his calendar when the investigator continued, voice lower. "There's something else. She's been fighting breast cancer. Stage 3. It's been rough. Over a year now. Doctors aren't giving great odds." The words landed like a punch to the gut. Michael sat down hard, staring at the photo in his other hand. Elena, sick, possibly dying. All these years he had waited, thinking there would be more time. He didn't hesitate. He booked the first flight he could get, packed a small bag, and headed to the airport that same night. Before boarding, he looked down at the faded picture one last time, tracing her smile with his thumb. "I'm late, Elena," he whispered, voice rough with tears he wouldn't let fall. "I'm so damn late, but I'm coming. Just hold on for me, okay? I'm coming home to you." The plane lifted into the night sky, carrying him back across decades of missed chances, straight towards the girl who had given him wings and the family he never knew existed. This time, he wasn't leaving again. Not ever. Michael Jordan drove slowly through the familiar streets of Wilmington, his hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than he ever held a basketball. He had left Charlotte before sunrise. No security, no assistance, just him and a bag in the back seat. The famous Michael Jordan, six-time champion, global icon, felt like a nervous teenager again. He parked across the street from a small pale yellow house on Garden Avenue. The paint was chipping here and there. The porch sagged slightly on one side, but bright flowers bloomed in the window boxes, like someone still cared about making it feel like home. He sat there for a long minute, heart pounding, staring at the front door. Then he took a deep breath, pulled his cap low, and walked up the cracked sidewalk. He climbed the 3 wooden steps and knocked before he could talk himself out of it. The door opened almost right away. A young woman in nurse scrubs stood there, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, holding a coffee mug that read, "World's Best Mom." She looked about 23 and had the same warm brown eyes he remembered from all those years ago. For a split second, everything froze. The mug slipped from her fingers and crashed onto the porch. Hot coffee splashed across the wood, but she didn't move to clean it up. Her eyes went wide. You're Michael Jordan," she whispered, her voice shaking. Michael took off his sunglasses so she could really see him. "Yeah, that's me," he said quietly. "I'm looking for Elena Martinez. Is she home?" The young woman's face cycled through so many emotions at once: shock, anger, disbelief, and something that looked a lot like careful hope. She crossed her arms over her chest like she needed to hold herself together. "You can't just show up after all this time," she said, but she stepped back anyway. "Come inside before the whole neighborhood sees." Michael followed her into the small, tidy living room. An old couch sat against one wall. Family photos covered almost every surface. School pictures, holidays, graduations, no wedding photos, no man in any of them. But as he looked closer, his chest tightened. There on the bookshelf was a framed article about his first NBA championship. On the wall hung a big magazine cover from one of his MVP years. And on the coffee table lay an open scrapbook full of neatly cut newspaper clippings, every single one about him. The young woman noticed him staring. "I'm Sophia," she said softly. "Sophia Martinez, Elena's daughter." Michael's head snapped up. Something about the shape of her face, the way she carried herself, it tugged at him, but he pushed the feeling aside for now. "Your mom, I really need to see her. I came as soon as I could." Sophia wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "She's not here. She's at Wilmington General. Been there a few days this time. Breast cancer stage 3. She's been fighting it for 18 months. The words hit Michael like a hard foul. He sank down onto the couch, head in his hands. "I didn't know," he said, voice rough. "I should have come years ago." Sophia stayed standing, watching him. She worked 2 jobs, nurse during the day, cleaning offices at night. We've sold almost everything we own to cover the bills. Insurance only pays for so much. She never wanted to reach out to you. Said you had your own life, your own family, your own world. That she didn't want to be the person who came asking for money. Michael looked up at her, eyes wet. I've been searching for her, hired people, found her a while back, but I was still figuring my own mess out. I waited too long. I know that. Sophia studied his face for what felt like forever, like she was trying to decide if he was real or just another disappointment. Then she walked over to the far side of the room and pulled back a thin decorative curtain he hadn't noticed before. Behind it was a hidden wall covered with even more photos and clippings. A private shrine. Every big moment of his career was saved there. Championship parades, MVP trophies, interviews. Handwritten notes in Elena's familiar handwriting filled the white space. So proud of my Mickey. You showed them all. Still cheering for you every night. Sophia's voice got quieter. She never missed a single game. Even the ones that came on at 3 in the morning. She'd wake up, watch you play, then go straight to her shift on almost no sleep. She told me stories about you all the time. How she taught you to shoot, how you two used to sit under that big oak tree, the promises you made when you were kids. She said you were the best thing that ever happened to her, even after all these years. Michael stood up slowly and walked to the wall. He reached out and gently touched one of the notes. Tears slipped down his cheeks without warning. 43 years of memories came rushing back all at once. Sophia watched him, her own eyes shining. She made me promise never to contact you. Said the past should stay in the past and that you deserve to live your life without old baggage. But she never stopped waiting, Mr. Jordan. Not one single day. She kept believing in you even when she was sick and tired and scared. The room felt smaller, heavier with everything unsaid between them. Michael turned to face her. Please, Sophia, take me to the hospital. I need to see her. I need to tell her I'm sorry for all the lost time and that I'm here now. I'm not leaving again. Sophia hesitated, biting her lip. She's not the girl from your pictures anymore. The cancer and the chemo have been brutal. She's tired and thin, and sometimes the medicine makes her confused. If you're not serious about this, if this is just guilt or a quick visit to feel better about yourself, then please turn around now. Seeing you, and then watching you leave again, might actually break what's left of her. Michael met her eyes without looking away. I'm staying, for as long as it takes. I'm not that scared kid who left anymore. I'm here for her, for both of you. Sophia grabbed her keys from a hook by the door. Follow me in your car, and try not to get lost. As they stepped back outside, carefully avoiding the broken mug and spilled coffee, Michael felt something deep inside his chest shift and settle. This house, this strong young woman, the secret wall full of his life through Elena's eyes. It was all proof of a love that had lasted decades in silence. He was finally here. The biggest moment of his life wasn't on any basketball court. It was waiting for him in a hospital room across town. And this time, he wasn't going to run from it. Sophia drove her old Honda Civic through the Wilmington streets while Michael followed close behind in his rented SUV. The hospital wasn't far, but the ride felt endless. He kept glancing at the rear of her car, still trying to wrap his head around everything that had just happened. When they pulled into the employee parking lot, Sophia waited for him by the side entrance. Stay close, she said, flashing her badge at security. A couple of people did double takes when they saw Michael, but she moved fast, pulling him down a quiet hallway before anyone could make a scene. Mom's on the 4th floor, oncology ward. She's been sleeping a lot because of the meds. They rode the elevator up in silence. Michael stared at his reflection in the shiny doors, a 51-year-old man who suddenly felt every single year. He had faced down the toughest defenders in the league without blinking, but walking toward Elena's room felt harder than any game-winning shot. Sophia stopped outside room 417. She might be out of it, she warned softly. The pain medicine makes her confused sometimes, and she doesn't look like the girl you remember. Be ready for that. Michael nodded, throat tight. I'm ready. Sophia pushed the door open quietly. The room was dim, with afternoon light filtering through thin curtains. Medical machines beeped softly beside the bed. And there she was. Elena. Michael's breath caught hard in his chest. She looked so small under the white sheets, thin and pale, a simple scarf wrapped around her head where her hair used to be. Dark circles sat under her eyes. But it was still her. The curve of her cheek, the small scar on her chin from that time she fell off her bike, trying to impress him when they were kids. His eyes filled with tears as he stepped closer. Elena's eyes fluttered open slowly. She blinked a few times, trying to focus. "Mija," she whispered when she saw Sophia. "You're supposed to be working." Sophia took her mother's hand. "I am working, Mama, but someone came to see you." Elena turned her head on the pillow. Her gaze landed on Michael and stayed there. For a long moment she just stared, like she was seeing a ghost. "Mickey?" The word came out weak, barely a breath. "No, this isn't real. The medicine, I dream about you all the time." Michael set the flowers he had grabbed from the gift shop on the bedside table and knelt down so their faces were level. "It's really me, Elena. I'm here." He took her hand gently in both of his. It felt fragile, but he held it like it was the most precious thing in the world. Elena reached up with her other hand and touched his face with trembling fingers. "You came back," she whispered. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "After all this time, you actually came back." Michael pressed her hand to his lips, his own tears falling freely now. "I'm so sorry it took me this long. I should have been here years ago. I'm sorry, Elena." She tried to sit up a little but winced in pain. "You can't see me like this. I look terrible. I'm sick and I'm bald and I'm not the girl you knew anymore." Her voice broke. "Please, Mickey, just go. Go back to your life. I don't want you remembering me this way." Michael shook his head, staying right where he was. "I'm not here for the girl I left behind all those years ago," he said, voice steady, even though his heart was breaking. "I'm here for the woman who believed in me when nobody else did. The woman who carried us both all this time. I'm not leaving, Elena. Not now. Not ever again." Elena looked at him for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then something inside her seemed to crack open. "I never stopped loving you, Mickey," she admitted, her voice raw and honest. "Not for one single day. Even when I was raising Sophia alone, even when I was working 2 jobs and barely making it, even when the cancer came, I still loved my Mickey. I watched every game. I kept every article. I told myself it was just a silly teenage crush, but it never went away. You were always the one." Her shoulders shook as she cried harder. Michael pulled her into a gentle hug, careful of the IV lines and all the tubes. He held her while she sobbed, his own tears soaking into her scarf. "I love you too," he whispered against her head. "I carried your picture in my wallet for 43 years, through everything. You're the reason I kept going when things got hard. Every big shot I ever took, I imagined you watching. I'm here now. We're going to fight this together." Sophia stood quietly in the corner, wiping her own eyes as she watched her parents finally together after all this time. The room felt full in a way it hadn't in years. A doctor knocked softly and stepped inside, chart in hand. He glanced at Michael with raised eyebrows but kept it professional. "Mrs. Martinez, I need to speak with you about your latest tests." Elena held onto Michael's hand tighter. The doctor looked serious. The numbers aren't moving the way we hoped. We may need to adjust the treatment plan soon. Things could decline faster than we expected if we don't stay aggressive." The warning hung heavy in the air. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, but Michael squeezed her hand. "We're fighting," he said firmly, looking at both Elena and the doctor. "Whatever it takes." As the doctor left, Michael stayed right by her bed, not letting go. The years apart, the pain, the secrets, none of it mattered in that moment. He was finally home. But the doctor's words echoed in his head, a sharp reminder that time was no longer on their side. Elena looked at him with tired but hopeful eyes. "You really came back," she whispered again. Michael smiled through the tears. "And I'm staying. We still have a promise to keep." Outside the window, the North Carolina sky was turning gray, like it knew another storm was coming. But for the first time in decades, Michael wasn't facing it alone. Later that evening, after the nurses had finished their rounds and the lights in the room were turned down low, Michael stayed right by Elena's bedside. The machines beeped softly in the background. Sophia had stepped out to give them some time alone, but the air in the room felt heavy with everything still unsaid. Elena looked tired, but determined, like she had carried this burden for way too long. She reached for Michael's hand and held it tight, her fingers thin but warm. "There's something I need to tell you, Mickey," she said quietly. "Something I should have found a way to say 23 years ago." Michael leaned in closer, brushing a strand of hair from her scarf. "I'm right here. Tell me everything. No more hiding." Elena took a slow, shaky breath, tears already gathering in her eyes. "When you left for college that August, I was already pregnant. I didn't realize it at first. The morning sickness started a couple months later. I was 17, scared to death, and I didn't know what to do." The words hit Michael like a punch in the stomach. He sat back, feeling the room spin around him. "Pregnant? You were carrying our baby, and I wasn't there?" Elena nodded, tears slipping down her pale cheeks. "I tried calling your dorm room almost every night. Your roommate always had an excuse. You were at practice. You were studying. You were out with the team. I left so many messages, Mickey. I was crying on some of them. Then I wrote you a long letter. I told you everything. How scared I was, how much I still loved you, that I would understand if you needed to focus on basketball. I poured my whole heart into that envelope." Her voice cracked. "I never heard back. My mother found out and convinced me it was better to keep quiet. She said telling you would ruin your scholarship, your future, everything you had worked for. She said you'd feel trapped and end up hating me and the baby one day. So I kept the secret. I raised Sophia by myself." Michael stood up slowly, his legs feeling weak. He ran both hands over his face as the reality sank in. "Sophia is my daughter," he whispered. "I have a 23-year-old daughter I never knew existed." The weight of all those lost years crashed down on him. Birthdays, holidays, school events, teaching her to shoot a basketball, being there when she needed a dad. Tears rolled freely down his face. "God, Elena, I missed everything. I'm so sorry. I never got that letter. I swear on my life I didn't know." Elena reached out and gently pulled him back down beside her. "I know you didn't, Mickey. Years later I tracked down your old roommate. He admitted he threw the letter away. He thought I was just some girl trying to trap a future star. My mother helped hide everything after that. I wanted to tell you so many times, especially when money was tight and Sophia needed things I couldn't give her. But I watched you on TV winning championships and building this amazing life. I told myself you were better off not knowing, that I had made the right choice, letting you fly." Michael sat there with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. The girl who had believed in him when no one else did had carried their child and raised her alone while he was out chasing glory. The door opened softly, and Sophia stepped back inside. She had been standing just outside, listening. Her face was red, eyes bright with years of built-up pain. "You finally told him," she said, her voice tight and trembling. She looked at her mother, then at Michael. "All these years I grew up wondering why I didn't have a dad like the other kids. Why I had to watch you on television instead of having you at my games. I was mad at Mom for keeping this secret, and I was mad at you for not being there. Even though you didn't know. I carried that anger with me every single day." Elena tried to sit up straighter, wincing in pain. "Sophia, baby, please." But Sophia shook her head, tears streaming down her face now. "I had to watch Mom fight cancer twice while working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. I had to quit playing basketball so I could help pay the bills. And you were out there living like a king. Championships, big houses, everything. I deserved to know you. I deserved a father who showed up." Her voice rose with all the hurt she had been holding inside for so long. Michael stood up slowly, his own tears falling. "You're right, Sophia. You deserved so much better. I wasn't there for any of it. And that's on me, even if I didn't know. I'm so sorry for every missed moment, every hard day you went through. I wish I could go back and change it." Sophia turned away, breathing hard, then suddenly stormed out of the room. The door slammed behind her with a loud bang that echoed down the hallway. Michael didn't think twice. He ran after her, catching up just as she pushed through the side exit into a heavy downpour. Rain soaked them both instantly. "Sophia, please wait," he called, jogging across the wet pavement. She stopped near a bench under a flickering streetlight, shoulders shaking as she cried. Michael slowed down, giving her a little space but refusing to leave. "I know I can't fix 23 years, he said over the sound of the rain. "I grew up without my own dad around the way I needed him. I know exactly how that empty feeling eats at you every single day. I don't blame you for being angry. I'd be furious too." Sophia turned to face him, rain mixing with the tears on her cheeks. "Then why didn't you come sooner? Why now?" Michael stepped closer, his voice raw. "Because I was scared. Scared that after all this time you wouldn't want anything to do with me. Scared I'd just make things worse. But I'm here now, Sophia, and I want to be your dad. Not because I feel guilty, but because I want to make up for every birthday I missed, every game I wasn't at, every night you needed someone to talk to. If you'll let me try, I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." Thunder rolled loudly overhead, and lightning lit up the sky. Sophia looked at him for a long moment, searching his face. Then she took one step, then another, and walked into his open arms. Their first real hug as father and daughter felt tentative at first, awkward after so many years apart. But they held on tight as the rain poured down and thunder crashed around them. "I'm sorry too," Sophia whispered against his wet shirt. "I'm still so angry. But I'm glad you're here." Michael rested his chin on top of her head, holding her close. "We're going to figure this out, all 3 of us, one day at a time." Suddenly, a nurse came running out the side door, jacket pulled over her head. "Mr. Jordan! Sophia! You need to come back inside right now. Elena's monitors are going off. Her condition is getting worse." Michael's heart dropped into his stomach. He grabbed Sophia's hand and they ran back through the rain together, wet shoes slipping on the hospital floor. The secret was finally out in the open. But now another battle, maybe the hardest one yet, was starting. Elena needed them more than ever. Their new family, still fragile and healing, was already being put to the test. The next few days turned into a nonstop rush of phone calls, medical reports, and fast decisions. Michael barely slept. He reached out to every important contact he had built over his long career, calling doctors, hospital administrators, and old friends who worked in medicine. Within 24 hours, some of the top oncologists in the country were reviewing Elena's case files. He made sure every single expense was covered right away, quietly setting up an anonymous fund through the hospital so Elena wouldn't feel like she owed anyone anything. She's already fought so hard on her own for too long, he told the hospital administrator during a private conversation in the hallway. It's my turn to carry some of this weight now. Don't worry about the cost. Just make sure she gets the absolute best care possible. Elena's body reacted badly to the first round of the stronger new treatment. The powerful medicines hit her system hard and fast. Her fever shot up, her blood pressure dropped to dangerous levels, and she started having trouble breathing. Late one night, the alarms in her room suddenly exploded with loud beeps and flashing lights. Nurses and doctors rushed in from the hallway, while Michael was gently but firmly pushed back against the wall. Sophia stood right beside him, gripping his arm so tightly that her nails left marks on his skin. For a few terrifying minutes, it looked like they might lose her right there in that hospital bed. The team worked frantically around her, adjusting IVs and calling out instructions. Michael felt completely powerless, a feeling he hadn't experienced since he was that skinny kid getting cut from the varsity team all those years ago. When the crisis finally passed and her numbers started to stabilize, the doctors allowed Michael to stay in the room for the rest of the night. Elena was extremely weak and drifting in and out of consciousness, her face pale against the white pillow. Michael pulled up a chair as close as he could get and took out the old blue notebook she had given him decades earlier. The cover was faded and the edges were worn from years of being carried in his wallet or bag, but every single encouraging message was still there in her neat handwriting. He opened it gently and began reading aloud in a soft, steady voice. "You are going to be better than yesterday. Don't give up, Mickey. I believe in you." Elena stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open just a little. She was only half awake, floating somewhere between dreams and the real world. "Mickey," she whispered, her voice faint and distant. "I'm so sorry about Sophia. She had to wear second-hand clothes to school and eat the same cheap meals almost every day. I missed so many of her important events because I was always working those double shifts. She had to grow up way too fast. I tried so hard to be everything she needed, but I know I wasn't enough." Fresh tears slipped from the corners of her eyes, even though she wasn't fully conscious. Hearing her quiet regrets broke something deep inside Michael. He set the notebook aside and took both of her hands in his, leaning in close. "You were more than enough," he told her gently, his voice thick with emotion. "You gave her love and strength and belief every single day, even when things were hardest. She grew up to be such an amazing young woman because of you. I'm the one who should be sorry for not being there to help carry the load." Then, even softer, Michael started singing the old-school song they used to listen to together back in high school. His voice was low and a little rough from lack of sleep, but it carried all the love and memories he had held onto for 43 years. Elena's breathing seemed to relax as she listened. A small, tired smile touched her lips even while she drifted in and out of sleep. He kept singing quietly until his voice grew hoarse, staying right by her side through the long, difficult hospital night. Sophia returned early the next morning with 2 cups of coffee from the cafeteria. She stopped in the doorway for a moment, watching her father sitting there exhausted, but still holding her mother's hand like it was the most important thing in the world. Something in Sophia's face changed. She had watched many people come and go in her mom's life over the years, but no one had ever shown this kind of devotion. "You really stayed here all night?" she said softly, handing him one of the coffees. Michael took it with tired hands and nodded. "I'm not going anywhere. Not anymore." Sophia sat down across from him. For the first time since he had shown up at their door, the hard wall of anger in her eyes seemed to soften. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being here when she needs it the most. It means more than you probably know." Later that afternoon, the full team of specialists came into the room together. Elena was awake but still very weak, propped up against several pillows. The lead doctor looked at all three of them with a serious but hopeful expression. "The new protocol is showing some early positive movement in her numbers, but we are at a very critical point right now. There is a narrow window for an experimental therapy that could make a significant difference. It's aggressive, and there are real risks involved, but if we move forward quickly, it might give her the strongest fighting chance we've seen so far." The room grew quiet as the heavy meaning of those words settled over Michael, Elena, and Sophia. Michael looked at Elena, then at Sophia, and finally back at the doctors. "We're doing it," he said, without any hesitation in his voice. "Whatever she needs. We're fighting for tomorrow with everything we have." Elena squeezed his hand as hard as her weak fingers would allow, her eyes meeting his with quiet strength and deep gratitude. Sophia nodded firmly too, stepping closer to stand beside both of them. The specialists left the room to begin making the necessary arrangements. Michael stayed right where he was, holding Elena's hand and holding on to the hope that tomorrow was still something they could reach. They had already waited 43 years for this second chance. None of them were willing to give up now. The road ahead was still frightening and full of unknowns, but they were finally facing it together as a family. While Elena rested and recovered from the latest round of treatment, Michael worked on something special behind the scenes. He had learned that the old oak tree behind Laney High School, the one where they had carved their initials and made their promises, was going to be cut down for a new building. He made some calls and arranged it to have the entire tree carefully dug up, transported, and replanted in a quiet enclosed courtyard at the hospital. It took a small crew and a lot of money, but he wanted it done right. He also worked with the hospital to turn the whole space into a private garden filled with memories. The garden came together faster than anyone expected. Along the walls, Michael had framed and displayed restored photos from their high school days, including the one from their 8th grade dance. The original blue notebook was placed in a special protective case. Every encouraging message Elena had written him was now beautifully enlarged and hung around the space. Old ticket stubs from movies they had seen together, a pressed flower from a dance corsage, and even some of the letters he had written her back in college were carefully preserved. In one special display, Michael placed all 6 of his NBA championship rings on velvet, each with a small card underneath that read, "For Elena, who believed first." A large screen was mounted on one wall for a video he had secretly put together. Old classmates, teachers, and even Coach Lynch had recorded short messages. Everyone shared stories about young Michael and Elena. Michael added clips of his biggest basketball moments, but he recorded his own voiceover on top of them. The whole garden was ready in just a couple of weeks. One sunny afternoon, when Elena was feeling a little stronger, Michael arranged for a nurse to help get her into a wheelchair. He wrapped a warm blanket around her shoulders and placed a soft knit cap on her head. "I want to show you something," he said with a small smile. "Trust me?" Elena looked curious but tired. "I've always trusted you, Mickey." He wheeled her through the hospital corridors and into the private courtyard she had never seen before. The moment they entered the garden, Elena gasped. In the center stood their old oak tree, tall and strong, its leaves rustling gently in the breeze. She reached out with a shaking hand as Michael wheeled her closer. "You saved our tree," she whispered, touching the bark where their carved initials, MJ plus EM, were still visible, now protected with clear resin. "How did you—" Michael knelt beside the wheelchair. "I couldn't let them cut it down. This tree holds too many of our memories." Elena's eyes moved around the garden, taking in all the frame photos, the notebook, the ticket stubs, and the championship rings. "This is all for me?" she asked, voice full of wonder. Michael nodded. "This is our life, Elena. The one we had and the one we should have had. I brought all the pieces back together." He then turned on the large screen and pressed play. The video started with old high school footage and messages from people they hadn't seen in decades. Coach Lynch appeared, looking older but sincere. "I was wrong about that kid. Elena saw what I couldn't. She always believed." The video shifted to Michael's greatest moments on the court. The shots, the championships, the crowds cheering. But Michael's recorded voice played over every clip. "Every one of these moments felt empty without you there. I looked for you in the stands even when I knew you weren't there. You gave me wings when I was just a skinny kid who got cut from the team." The video ended with a new recording of Michael speaking directly to the camera, his eyes wet. "Elena, you believed in me before I was anyone worth believing in. Every success I ever had started with you. I spent 43 years trying to prove I was worthy of your belief. Now I know the truth. I was always worthy because you said I was." Elena was sobbing by the end, hands covering her face. Michael gently pulled her hands away and knelt in front of her wheelchair. "This garden is yours," he said softly. "Whenever you're here for treatment, you can come sit under our tree and remember that we were young and in love and full of dreams. And those dreams came true, not just because I made it to the NBA, but because I found my way back to you." Elena could barely speak through her tears. "Mickey, this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for me." Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a small blue velvet box. "This isn't even the real gift yet," he said, opening it to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. The band was silver, with a tiny piece of basketball net embedded in it. "This net is from my first varsity game, the one you came to watch even before we were officially together. You cheered louder than anyone that night." Elena's breath caught as she looked at the ring. Michael took her hand. "Elena Martinez, I've loved you since I was 14 years old. I've loved you through all the years apart, through my mistakes, through everything life threw at us. I want to love you for whatever time we have left, whether that's 1 year or 50 years." He held the ring up, his hands shaking slightly. "Will you marry me?" Elena stared at the ring, then at Michael, tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Mickey. I'll marry you." But then her expression changed. "But what if I don't have much time left? The doctors—" Michael shook his head gently. "We're going to fight this together. And if we only get 1 month or 1 year, I want every single day of it with you." Elena said yes again, smiling through her tears, but deep down she still carried the fear that she might not live long enough to walk down the aisle. Michael slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting 43 years to find its home. They stayed in the garden for a long time, holding hands under the oak tree as the sun moved across the sky. For the first time in years, Elena felt truly seen and loved, but the fear of not having enough time lingered in the back of her mind, even as joy filled her heart. Michael had given her a garden full of memories, but they both knew the biggest fight was still ahead. The story broke like a sudden storm. Someone at the hospital leaked that Michael Jordan was there visiting a woman with cancer, and within hours the news exploded across every channel and social media feed. Reporters and camera crews swarmed the hospital entrance. News vans parked along the street, blocking traffic. Headlines screamed, "Michael Jordan's secret heartbreak, childhood sweetheart battling cancer, and basketball legend reunites with first love after 43 years." Security had to create a special entrance just for family and staff. Michael stood at the window of Elena's room one morning, looking down at the chaos below with a heavy sigh. "They don't get to turn our pain into entertainment," he said quietly. "This is our story, not theirs." Michael's 3 sons flew in as soon as they heard the news. Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jason arrived at the hospital together, looking a little overwhelmed. Meeting Sophia for the first time brought a mix of emotions. The initial conversation in a private family lounge was careful and a bit tense. Jeffrey, the oldest, shook Sophia's hand first. "Dad told us about you," he said. "This is a lot to process, but you're family now. We're here for Mom, for Elena, and for all of us." Sophia stood straight, but Michael could see the nervousness behind her calm expression. There were awkward questions about her life, her job as a nurse, and what it felt like growing up without knowing her father. Some old hurt surfaced, but the brothers listened. Slowly, the tension eased as they started sharing stories about their dad and realized they all carried pieces of the same complicated family picture. Then came the shock no one saw coming. One quiet afternoon, while Michael, Sophia, and Elena were spending time in the memory garden, an elderly woman appeared at the courtyard entrance. She had gray hair pulled back neatly and eyes that looked both kind and deeply tired. "I'm Maria Martinez," she said in a trembling voice, "Elena's mother." Elena's face went completely white. "Mama? You're alive? All this time, you were alive?" The revelation hit everyone like a thunderclap. Maria had faked her death many years earlier and returned to Puerto Rico, unable to live with the guilt of what she had done, convincing Elena to hide the pregnancy and blocking Michael from knowing about his daughter. Elena asked to be wheeled deeper into the garden. The confrontation happened right beneath the branches of their old oak tree. "You let me believe you were dead," Elena said, her voice shaking with years of buried pain. "I mourned you for so long. I raised Sophia completely alone while thinking I had no mother to turn to. You took away my choices. You took away Michael's chance to know his own daughter. How could you do that to us?" Maria stood there crying openly, taking every painful word. "I was wrong, mija. I was scared for your future. I thought I was protecting you from heartbreak and struggle, but I caused so much more pain instead. I've carried that guilt every single day since I left." The raw accusations continued under the tree. Elena spoke about the lonely nights, the money struggles, the fear of raising a child alone, and how much she had needed her mother. Maria listened through her tears, nodding and apologizing again and again. Then, in a moment that felt like healing after decades of hurt, Elena reached out her thin arms. "I forgive you, Mama," she whispered. "Life is too short and too uncertain to hold on to all this anger. I don't want to waste whatever time I have left being mad at you." Maria broke down sobbing as she stepped forward and pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. Sophia joined them, and for the first time in many years, 3 generations of strong Martinez women held each other close under the oak tree. Michael stood a few feet away, watching the powerful scene with tears streaming down his own face. It was one of the most beautiful and emotional moments he had ever witnessed. But right after they pulled apart, smiling through their tears, Elena suddenly gasped sharply. Her face went pale, and she slumped forward in the wheelchair, breathing fast and shallow. The emotional weight of the confrontation had been too much for her fragile body. Michael and Sophia rushed to her immediately. "Elena, stay with us," Michael called out as they quickly wheeled her back inside. Nurses and doctors responded fast, rushing her toward her room while checking her vitals. The joyful moment of forgiveness turned into another frightening health scare in an instant. Michael held her hand the whole way, whispering encouragement and refusing to let go. The storm before their wedding vows had arrived with full force, reminding everyone just how precious and fragile their time together really was. They still had a wedding to plan, but first they had to make sure Elena could make it through the next few days. December brought a crisp chill to the air in Wilmington, but the memory garden felt warm and full of life. Michael had worked with the hospital staff to turn the courtyard into a beautiful, intimate wedding space. Tiny white lights twinkled from every branch and along the fences. The old oak tree stood proudly in the center, its trunk wrapped with soft, glowing lanterns. Flowers bloomed in pots around the edges, and comfortable chairs were arranged for the small group of guests. Elena had grown a little stronger after the latest treatments. She could walk short distances now with support, and she insisted she wanted to walk down the aisle on her own 2 feet, even if it was slow. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold, guests started gathering. Michael stood under the oak tree in a simple black suit, his hands trembling just a little. Sophia stood beside him in a beautiful emerald green dress, looking proud and happy. "You look nervous, Dad," she teased gently. Michael gave a soft laugh. "I am. I've stood in front of thousands of screaming fans and taken game-winning shots, but this feels like the biggest moment of my life." Sophia squeezed his arm. "She's going to look beautiful, and she loves you more than anything. This is exactly where you both belong." The soft guitar music began to play, the same gentle melody from their 8th grade dance many years ago. Sophia walked to the entrance of the garden to meet her mother. Michael's 3 sons, Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jason, joined them. Together, this blended family slowly walked Elena down the aisle. She looked radiant in her simple white dress that fell softly to her knees. A delicate flower crown was woven through her short, newly growing curls. She leaned lightly on Sophia for support, but her eyes never left Michael. When she reached him under the oak tree, her smile lit up the entire garden. The officiant, an older minister who had known Elena for years, began the ceremony. Michael and Elena had written their own vows, and the words came straight from their hearts. Michael spoke first, holding her hands and looking into her eyes. "Elena, you gave me wings when I was just a skinny kid who got cut from the team and didn't believe in himself. You saw something in me that no one else did. Today I promise to be the solid ground beneath those wings. I promise to stand beside you on every hard day and every good one. I promise to love you, protect you, and cherish every single moment we're given, whether it's 1 more year or 50 more. You are my home, my beginning, and my forever." Elena's eyes filled with tears as she spoke her vows, holding his hands tightly. "Mickey, you came back for me when I thought it was too late. You showed me that real love doesn't die and doesn't give up. I promise to keep fighting this illness with everything I have. I promise to keep believing in us and to make every single day we have together count. You've given me back my hope, my family, and my heart. I love you, Mickey Jordan. I always have, and I always will." The officiant smiled warmly at them. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Michael, you may kiss your bride." Michael gently cupped Elena's face in his hands and kissed her with all the love he had carried for 43 years. The small gathering of family and close friends clapped and cheered as the couple turned to face them, now officially Mr. and Mrs. Michael Jordan. Then came a surprise that touched everyone deeply. Coach Lynch, now 83 years old and walking slowly with a cane, stepped forward. "I hope it's okay if I say a few words," he said. Michael nodded, clearly moved. The old coach looked at both of them with sincere eyes. "I was wrong about you, son. I cut you from that team because I couldn't see what Elena saw so clearly from the very beginning. She believed in you when I didn't. I'm truly sorry for that mistake. And I'm so happy to be here today to see you two finally together after all these years." His public apology brought fresh tears to many eyes. Michael stepped forward and hugged his former coach tightly. "Thank you for coming. It means the world." Maria sat quietly in the front row throughout the ceremony, watching with grateful tears in her eyes. During a quiet moment after the vows, she approached Elena and whispered, "I'm so proud of the strong, loving woman you became, Mija. Thank you for giving me another chance to be part of your life." Elena pulled her mother into a gentle hug. It was a quiet but deeply meaningful moment of redemption for Maria after so many years of regret. As the sun disappeared completely and the garden lights glowed softly like stars, Michael and Elena shared their first dance as husband and wife under the oak tree. She leaned on him heavily, but she was smiling the whole time. Halfway through the song, Elena rested her head on his shoulder and whispered something only he could hear. "There's something I haven't told you yet, Mickey. During the last scan, the doctors found another small spot. They're not sure how serious it is, but they want to keep watching it closely." Michael's heart tightened with worry, but he held her even closer and kissed the top of her head. "We'll face whatever comes together," he whispered back. "Just like we promised. I'm not letting go." The celebration continued around them with laughter, stories, and family toasts. But Elena's quiet confession during their first dance reminded both of them that their happiness was beautiful, hard-won, and still fragile. They had finally said their vows and become husband and wife. But the fight for their future was far from over. For now, though, under the twinkling lights in the old oak tree, they held each other and celebrated the love that had waited 43 years to come home. The wedding was beautiful, but the very next week brought a tough setback. Elena's body needed more time to recover from the emotional day and the ongoing treatments. A mild infection and another drop in her blood counts forced the doctors to keep her in the hospital longer than planned. "This is our honeymoon," Michael told her with a gentle smile as he helped adjust her pillows. "Doesn't matter where we are, as long as we're together." Elena laughed softly. "Only you could turn a hospital room into a honeymoon suite, Mickey." Michael moved into a small room right down the hall so he could stay close. The nurses got used to seeing him there every day, bringing her favorite flowers, reading to her, and making sure she was comfortable. Their honeymoon was made up of small, quiet joys. In the mornings, he read chapters from her favorite books while she rested. In the afternoons, they talked about everything: memories from high school, dreams for the future, and all the little things they had missed over the years. At night, when the hospital was quiet, he would help her into a wheelchair and take her to the memory garden. Under the twinkling lights and the old oak tree, they danced slowly to music playing from his phone. Elena leaned on him, sometimes too weak to stand for long, but always smiling. One evening, Sophia visited after her shift. She looked tired and worried. "I got accepted to medical school at Duke," she told them quietly. "Full scholarship, but I'm thinking about deferring for a year. I don't want to leave Mom right now." Elena reached for her daughter's hand. "Mija, you've worked so hard for this. I don't want you putting your life on hold because of me." Sophia shook her head. "How can I go when you're still fighting? I need to be here." Michael and Elena looked at each other. They had talked about this moment. That night, they held a small family council right there in the hospital room. Michael sat on one side of Elena's bed, Sophia on the other. "I know you want to stay," Michael said gently, "but your mom and I both believe you should go. This is your dream, Sophia. Your mom fought hard so you could have chances she never had. Let me be here for her every day. Let me take care of your mom so you can go become the doctor the world needs." Elena nodded, squeezing her daughter's hand. "He's right, baby. I want you to go. I'll be okay because I have Mickey now, and you can come home whenever you need to. We're a family. We'll make this work together." Sophia cried, but they could see the weight lifting from her shoulders. Michael reached into a bag beside the bed and pulled out a new blue notebook, decorated with small medical symbols and stars. "I made this for you," he said, handing it to her. "Your own book of dreams. Every page has a message from your mom and me. You're going to be an incredible doctor, Sophia. We believe in you." Sophia opened it and read the first page, tears falling faster. She hugged both of them tightly. "Thank you. I'll make you proud." On Christmas Eve, as soft snow began to fall outside the hospital windows, the doctors came in with the latest scan results. The lead specialist smiled for the first time in weeks. "The numbers are looking better. The treatment is working. We see real progress." Elena let out a relieved sob and reached for Michael's hand. He kissed her forehead, holding her close while Sophia cheered quietly. It was the best Christmas gift they could have asked for. Their honeymoon in the hospital had been anything but traditional, but it was filled with love, healing, and hope. The road ahead was still long, but for the first time in a while, tomorrow felt brighter. A few weeks after their wedding, Elena was finally well enough to leave the hospital for good. Michael had found and bought a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood of Wilmington. It had 5 bedrooms, a big sunny kitchen, and a spacious backyard. The most special part was the custom garden he had designed just for them. A young oak tree had been planted, flower beds bloomed with Elena's favorite colors, and there was a peaceful bench under a trellis where they could sit together and talk. When they first pulled into the driveway, Elena looked at the house with tears in her eyes. "You really built this for us?" she whispered. Michael smiled, helped her out of the car, and carried her over the threshold like a traditional groom. "Welcome home, Mrs. Jordan. This is ours now. No more hospital rooms, no more waiting, just us." The house quickly filled with warmth and life. Michael's sons began visiting regularly with their wives and children. The grandchildren warmed up to Elena right away, calling her Grandma Elena with big, excited voices. Little Amara, Jeffrey's 5-year-old daughter, loved climbing into Elena's lap and showing her crayon drawings. "This one is you and Grandpa Mickey under the big tree at the wedding," she would say proudly. Elena saved every single drawing, hanging them on the refrigerator and in the hallway. Watching her husband's children and grandchildren accept her so openly and lovingly healed old wounds she had carried for years. The blended family was slowly growing closer, sharing meals, stories, and laughter around the big dining table. One sunny Saturday afternoon, they officially launched the Believe Foundation. It was a dream they had talked about during those long hospital nights, a nonprofit organization to support single mothers and families fighting cancer. The foundation would help with medical bills, provide emotional support, and give resources to people who felt alone in their struggles. They held a small, heartfelt launch event right in their backyard garden. Friends, family, hospital staff, and a few local reporters came to celebrate. Sophia stood up to give a speech. She talked honestly about watching her mother work 2 jobs while battling cancer, about the fear of losing her, and about the strength it took to keep going. "My mom believed in me even when things were hardest," Sophia said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "She believed in my dad before the whole world knew his name. This foundation is about passing on that belief to other families who need it most. No one should have to fight alone. In the audience, Michael sat with tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed with pride. Elena held his hand tightly, both of them deeply moved by their daughter's powerful, honest words. The foundation launch felt like the perfect way to turn their pain into something good for others. After the event, Sophia received some incredible news. She had been awarded a prestigious scholarship that would cover the rest of medical school and guarantee a residency placement at one of the best hospitals in the country. It was life-changing. But when she told her parents that evening, she hesitated to celebrate. "It feels wrong to be this happy about leaving when Mom is still recovering and needs me," she said quietly, sitting with them in the cozy living room. Michael and Elena looked at each other, then at their daughter. "This is your time, sweetheart," Elena told her gently. "You've worked so hard for this opportunity. Your dad and I have each other now. I don't want you putting your dreams on hold because of me." Michael nodded in agreement. "We're a family, Sophia. You going to school doesn't change that. It makes all of us stronger. Let us take care of things here so you can go become the doctor the world needs." Sophia hugged them both tightly, still a little unsure, but clearly starting to feel the excitement. The new house, the growing family bonds, and the foundation they had created together marked the beginning of a real new chapter in their lives. There were still challenges ahead: health worries, adjusting to their blended family, and the work of the foundation. But they were finally building something lasting and meaningful. A true home filled with love, second chances, forgiveness, and belief in a better tomorrow. For the first time in many years, Michael, Elena, and Sophia felt like they were exactly where they were meant to be. Sophia's life-changing news arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. She had been selected for a highly competitive scholarship to one of the most prestigious medical programs in the country. Along with full tuition coverage for the remaining years, she also received a generous research grant focused on making advanced cancer care more accessible and affordable for low-income families. It was exactly the kind of work she had dreamed about since watching her mother fight through treatments while struggling with bills. When she shared the news with her parents over dinner that evening, the kitchen filled with pure joy. Michael stood up and wrapped his arms around her in a big bear hug. "I'm so incredibly proud of you, sweetheart. This is everything you've worked so hard for." Elena's eyes shone with happy tears as she reached for her daughter's hand. "You did it, mija. All those late nights studying, all the sacrifices, it was worth it. We're so proud." They celebrated that night with a lively family dinner. Michael's sons and their families came over, filling the house with laughter, good food, and warm conversations. The grandchildren ran around the backyard playing tag, while the adults raised their glasses in toasts to Sophia's bright future. For a few hours, everything felt light and hopeful. But later that night, after the guests had left and the house grew quiet, Sophia sat on the back porch with her parents. The excitement on her face was mixed with visible worry. "I'm scared to leave," she admitted softly, staring out at the garden. "What if Mom needs me and I'm 3 hours away at school? And Dad, I feel like we're just starting to get real time together. It feels like stolen time after so many years apart, and I don't want to lose any more of it." Michael pulled his daughter into a warm hug. The three of them sat together under the stars in the backyard, wrapped in blankets against the cool evening air. "I know exactly how that fear feels," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "I missed 23 years of your life, Sophia. Every birthday party, every school play, every moment when you needed a dad to talk to or lean on. I carry that regret with me every single day. But I'm so proud of the strong, compassionate, and brilliant young woman you've become despite everything. Your mom raised you to chase big dreams, just like she encouraged me to chase mine all those years ago. Don't let fear hold you back from this opportunity. We'll make the time we have count. You can come home on weekends, call anytime, and I'll be right here taking care of your mom every single day. Elena nodded gently, taking both of Sophia's hands in hers. He's right, baby. I want you to go and do this. This research you'll be doing could help so many families who are going through what we went through. I'll be okay because I finally have your dad by my side. We're a real team now. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore. Sophia cried quietly as the late-night talk lifted years of heavy weight from her heart. For the first time, she truly felt seen, supported, and deeply loved by both of her parents. The very next morning brought another wonderful milestone for Elena. She woke up and realized she had made it through her first full day and night without needing any pain medication. She moved around the kitchen a little more freely, helping Michael make breakfast with a genuine, bright smile on her face. I feel more like myself today than I have in a long time, she told him, leaning in for a soft kiss. Michael spun her gently in his arms, both of them laughing like teenagers again. It was a small victory, but after everything they had endured, it felt like a huge step forward. Just as the family was beginning to feel hopeful, new trouble appeared on the horizon. The media had been digging deeper into their personal story. Some aggressive reporters started publishing more details about Sophia, her secret connection to Michael, the hidden pregnancy, and the years Elena had raised her alone while Michael was building his legendary career. Headlines questioned whether Sophia's scholarship was truly earned or if Michael's fame and money had played a role. Sophia's phone began blowing up with messages and interview requests. She looked overwhelmed and anxious when she showed her parents the latest articles. "This could ruin everything I've worked for," she said, her voice shaky. "People are already doubting me before I even start the program." The family secret was now fully public, and it threatened to cast a dark shadow over Sophia's promising future. Michael pulled her close, promising they would face the media storm together. The fight to protect their daughter's dream had only just begun. After weeks of swirling rumors and invasive headlines, Michael and Elena decided it was time to speak from the heart. They invited a respected journalist into their Wilmington home for a major television interview. Sitting side by side on their living room couch, holding hands the entire time, they told their full story openly and honestly. Michael spoke first, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I was young and chasing a dream when I left Elena behind. I missed 23 years of my daughter's life because I didn't know she existed. Elena raised Sophia alone while cheering for me from a distance. She is the strongest, most loving person I've ever known." Elena looked into the camera with quiet courage, tears shining in her eyes. Love doesn't always happen on the timeline we want. Sometimes it waits through decades of pain and separation. But when it comes back, it can heal things you thought were broken forever. I never stopped believing in my Mickey, and he never stopped carrying me in his heart. The interview touched millions of people across the country and around the world. Support poured in from strangers who shared their own stories of lost love, second chances, and family secrets. Letters and messages flooded the Believe Foundation, many from single mothers and cancer patients who said the story gave them hope. Donations skyrocketed, allowing the foundation to help even more families with medical bills and emotional support. At the same time, there was harsh backlash. Some critics accused Michael of trying to rewrite his past or question whether Sophia's achievements were truly her own. The attention was overwhelming, but the love and encouragement far outweighed the negativity. A few days later, Sophia faced one of her hardest moments yet. At school, some classmates and even a professor made pointed comments suggesting her scholarship might have been influenced by her famous father rather than her own merit. She came home that weekend looking exhausted and defeated, sitting on the edge of her bed with tears in her eyes. "I worked so hard for this," she said, voice breaking. "But now it feels like people only see me as Michael Jordan's secret daughter. Like nothing I've done matters on its own." Michael didn't hesitate for a second. He booked a flight and surprised her on campus the very next day. They walked around the university grounds for hours, talking about everything. "You are so much more than my daughter," he told her, stopping under a tree to look her in the eyes. "You are Sophia, smart, determined, compassionate, and strong because of the mother who raised you. I'm proud to be your dad, but your success belongs to you. Don't let anyone dim your light." The most emotional moment came at the big scholarship gala in Baltimore. Sophia was one of the main honorees. Michael and Elena flew in to be there with her. When they stepped onto the red carpet together, Sophia reached for both of their hands. The three of them walked forward as a family, father, mother, and daughter, facing the flashing cameras with quiet strength. Michael felt tears welling up as he watched his daughter shine under the lights. "I'm so proud to stand here as your dad tonight," he whispered to her during a quiet moment. Sophia smiled through her own tears. "I'm proud to be yours too, Dad. Both of yours." The moment was captured by photographers and quickly went viral, showing a family that had fought through decades of separation and pain to stand together. But just as they were celebrating this victory, Elena received concerning news from her routine scan back home. The doctors had found an unexpected shadow that needed closer monitoring. The joy of the gala suddenly mixed with fresh worry and fear. Their decision to face the world publicly had brought incredible support and strength. But it also reminded them that the fight for Elena's health was far from over. The family returned to Wilmington more united than ever, ready to face the next challenge together with love, courage, and the deep bond they had finally rebuilt. No matter what the scan showed or what the world said, they had each other. And that was the greatest victory of all. The shadow on Elena's latest scan turned out to be more serious than anyone had hoped. The cancer had returned in a new spot, more aggressive this time, and the doctors recommended immediate action. The news hit the family like a sudden storm on a calm day. Elena sat in the living room of their Wilmington home, holding Michael's hand while the specialist explained the options over a video call. Her face remained calm, but Michael could feel the slight tremble in her fingers. When the call ended, the room fell quiet for a long moment. Michael pulled her into his arms and held her close. "We're not giving up," he whispered fiercely. "We've already beaten the odds once. We'll do it again." The whole family rallied around her without a second thought. Michael's sons, Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jason, dropped everything and flew in with their families. The house that had become a true home was suddenly filled with noise, laughter, and quiet support. The grandchildren sensed something was wrong and stayed close to Grandma Elena, drawing pictures and telling her silly stories to make her smile. Michael made one of the hardest decisions of his life. He quietly sold several pieces of personal memorabilia, including one of his championship rings and some signed jerseys from his playing days, to help cover the cost of the most advanced treatment options available. When Sophia asked him about it, he simply shrugged. "None of that stuff ever meant as much as she does. I'd sell everything I own if it gave us more time with her." Sophia threw herself completely into her research project at school. Her work now focused on new approaches to treatment that were inspired directly by her mother's long fight. She stayed up late many nights, reading studies and talking to her professors, determined to turn their family's pain into something that could help other families in the future. If I can make even one thing easier for someone going through what Mom went through, it will all be worth it, she told her parents during one late-night phone call. The night before Elena's major surgery decision, the family held an all-night vigil in the living room. They pushed the furniture back, brought in blankets and pillows, and stayed up together as the hours passed. One by one, each family member shared what Elena meant to them. Jeffrey spoke about how her warmth and kindness had welcomed him and his brothers into her heart without any hesitation, making their blended family feel real. Marcus talked about her quiet strength that reminded him so much of his own mother and how it inspired him to be a better father. Jason shared funny memories of her teaching the grandchildren simple card games and how her laughter filled the house with joy even on hard days. Sophia cried as she held her mother's hand. "You taught me how to fight, Mom. You showed me what real, unconditional love looks like. I'm going to make you proud with everything I do." Elena listened to every single word, tears streaming down her face. When it was her turn to speak, her voice was soft, but carried a quiet, powerful strength that touched everyone in the room. "I've been scared many times in my life," she said, looking around at all of them with love in her eyes. "When I was 17 and pregnant, when I was working 2 jobs while sick, when the cancer came back. But having all of you here with me now makes me believe we can face anything together. Thank you for loving me through the hardest parts. No matter what happens tomorrow in surgery, know that my heart is completely full because of this family we've built." Her words inspired everyone there, giving them a renewed sense of courage and hope for the difficult days ahead. The next morning, the entire family gathered at the hospital as Elena prepared for surgery. The doctors were honest with them. The procedure was complex and carried real risks with uncertain odds. Michael stayed by her side until the very last moment, kissing her forehead gently before they wheeled her away. "I'll be right here waiting when you wake up," he promised, his voice steady even though his heart was breaking inside. "We still have so many tomorrows to live together." The waiting room became a place of tension, prayer, and quiet support as the hours passed slowly. Michael paced the halls, Sophia reviewed her research notes to stay busy, and the rest of the family sat together, sharing memories and holding on to hope. As the surgery went on, Michael thought about how far they had come, from that scared boy in the empty gym to this moment, fighting for the woman who had believed in him first. The family stayed strong together, drawing comfort from each other's presence. One more fight had begun, but this time they faced it as a complete family, bonded by love, strengthened by time, and determined to hold on to every precious moment they still had. Whatever the outcome of the surgery, they knew they would face it together, just as they had promised. The surgery was a success beyond what the doctors had dared to hope for. After many tense hours in the waiting room, the lead surgeon finally came out with a tired but genuine smile on his face. "We were able to remove all visible traces of the new growth," he told the anxious family gathered there. "The margins are clear, and her immediate post-op numbers look very promising. She's in recovery now." The entire family erupted in tears of relief and quiet cheers. Michael hugged Sophia tightly, both of them crying as the weight of months of fear began to lift. When Elena finally woke up in the recovery room, the first thing she saw was Michael sitting beside her bed, holding her hand like it was the most precious thing in the world. "We did it, Mickey," she whispered, her voice weak but full of quiet joy. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, tears falling onto her hospital gown. "You did it, Elena. You fought like you always do." The road to full remission was still long and required careful monitoring, but this victory felt like a true miracle after everything they had been through. Elena slowly regained her strength over the following weeks. She started taking short walks in the garden with Michael's arm around her, laughing at how wobbly her legs felt at first. The family celebrated every small milestone: her first full meal without nausea, her first night sleeping through without pain medicine, the day her hair began growing back in soft, dark curls. Each step forward was cherished like a gift. A few months later, on the 1-year anniversary of their wedding, the family gathered in the backyard garden for a big, joyful celebration. The blended family was now completely united. Michael's sons, Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jason, were there with their wives and children. Sophia came home from school for the weekend. Maria flew in from Puerto Rico, and even Coach Lynch made the trip again. The garden was decorated with twinkling lights, fresh flowers, and a long table filled with food everyone had helped prepare. The grandchildren ran around chasing each other under the oak tree, their laughter filling the air. Michael stood up during dinner to make a toast. Looking at Elena with so much love, it brought tears to many eyes. 1 year ago, I married the love of my life under this very tree. Today I'm even more grateful for every single day we've had since then. You've given me a family, a home, and a second chance at happiness I never thought I'd find. Elena, looking healthier and stronger with her hair now shoulder length, smiled at him and everyone around them. To second chances and the people who make them possible, she said, raising her glass. The night was filled with stories, music, dancing, and gratitude. It was the kind of celebration they had dreamed about during the hardest hospital nights. Life gradually settled into beautiful everyday rhythms that felt like pure blessings. Michael loved trying to cook breakfast for Elena almost every morning, even though he was still comically bad at it. Pancakes often came out burned around the edges. Eggs were sometimes too runny, and the coffee was occasionally too strong. But Elena would laugh, pull him close, and kiss his cheek anyway. "I love your cooking, Mickey. It tastes like home and love." Those simple kitchen moments became some of their favorite parts of the day. Elena started volunteering regularly at the hospital cancer wing, sitting with patients who were going through treatment and sharing her own story of hope and survival. Seeing her help others and give them strength filled Michael with incredible pride every time she came home glowing from a meaningful conversation. Sophia's first major research paper was published in a respected medical journal. The work focused on improving access to advanced cancer treatments for families facing financial hardship. When she showed the printed article to her parents, they celebrated with a special family dinner. "This is because of you, Mom," Sophia said emotionally. "Your fight inspired every word of this research." Elena hugged her daughter tightly, tears in her eyes. "You're going to change so many lives, Mija. I'm so proud." The most touching climax of this new chapter came on a quiet, golden afternoon when Michael and Elena decided to renew their vows under the oak tree in their backyard. The grandchildren were there as flower girls and ring bearers, holding small bouquets and watching with wide, excited eyes. Michael spoke simple but deeply heartfelt words. "A year ago I promised to be your solid ground. Today I promise it again, and for every year we are lucky enough to have together. You are my forever, Elena." Elena, with happy tears shining in her eyes, replied with a voice full of love, "You came back for me and gave me more than I ever dreamed possible. I choose you every single day, Mickey, through every sunrise and every challenge." The grandchildren clapped and cheered as their grandparents kissed, making the moment even sweeter and more meaningful. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, Elena found Michael sitting alone on the bench in the garden. He was looking at the old faded photo from their 8th grade dance, the one he had carried in his wallet for 43 years. She sat down beside him and rested her head on his shoulder. "Still carrying that around after all this time?" she asked gently. Michael smiled and put his arm around her, pulling her close. "It brought me back to you. I look at it sometimes to remind myself how incredibly lucky I am that you waited for me." They sat there together in comfortable, loving silence, watching the sky turn orange and pink over their home and the family they had built. Life had given them miracles and milestones, but the quiet, everyday moments like this were the most precious gifts of all. Their love had survived 43 years of separation, pain, and uncertainty. Now it was stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than either of them had ever imagined. The future was still unknown in some ways, but with each other, their children, and their grandchildren, they were ready for whatever came next. 2 years had passed since that emotional wedding under the oak tree. Time had been kind to them. Elena was healthy and in full remission, her scans clear for over a year now. She had more energy than she had in a decade. Her hair was back to its old length, and her smile lit up every room she entered. The Believe Foundation had grown into a thriving organization, helping hundreds of single mothers and cancer families across the country with medical support, counseling, and hope. Sophia had finished her medical training and was now a practicing doctor, already making a name for herself with her research on accessible cancer care. Life felt full in a way none of them had dared to dream about during the darkest hospital nights. The whole family gathered for a big reunion at the house in Wilmington. Michael's sons and their growing families, Sophia, Maria, old friends, and even Coach Lynch filled the backyard with laughter and love. The grandchildren, now a few more of them, ran around the garden playing under the oak tree. Michael stood on the porch watching everyone, a deep sense of peace settling over him. Elena came up beside him and slipped her hand into his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. Michael smiled. "How lucky we are. All of this, our children, our grandchildren, this home, none of the championships or fame ever came close to this feeling." Later that evening, after the kids had tired themselves out and the adults were sitting around talking, Michael asked everyone's attention. He had one more gift for Elena. He handed her a beautifully bound book and a set of documents. "This is the real gift I promised you all those years ago," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The book was a lifetime video archive, hours of messages, old home videos, new recordings from family and friends, and Michael's own reflections on their journey. The documents were for a trust fund set up for their children, grandchildren, and future generations, with the foundation as a continuing legacy. "This symbolizes something that can never be broken. My belief in you, in us, and in the family we built. You believed in me first. Now I believe in all of this, forever," Elena cried as she held the book, flipping through pages and watching some of the videos on a tablet. The family watched with tears and smiles. It was the ultimate emotional peak, a public declaration of love and legacy that touched everyone present. As the sun began to set, Michael and Elena walked hand in hand to their favorite spot under the oak tree. They were both gray-haired now, moving a little slower, but their love was as strong as ever. They sat on the bench and watched their grandchildren play in the golden light, laughing and chasing each other. "We made it, Mickey," Elena whispered, leaning her head on his shoulder. "We really made it." Michael kissed the top of her head. "We did, and I'd go through every year apart again if it led me back to this moment with you." In the quiet beauty of that dusk scene, their love felt eternal. Love that had waited, endured, and finally come home. Love that proved it was never too late for promises, second chances, and the family that makes life worth every struggle. As the stars came out overhead, Sophia sat inside going through some old boxes her mother had saved. She found a bundle of letters tied with a ribbon, letters from her mother to Michael that had never been sent. One in particular caught her eye, written shortly after Sophia was born. As she began to read, her eyes widened. There was one more family secret waiting to be discovered, one that could change everything once again. Sophia Martinez Jordan sat at the wooden desk in the cozy study of her new home, the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the window and casting a warm golden glow across the pages of a beautiful new blue notebook. She had bought it herself, inspired by the one her mother had given her father so many decades ago. The cover was a deep navy with delicate silver stars and small medical symbols embossed on it. Her hand moved slowly and thoughtfully across the lined paper as she wrote a heartfelt letter to her own future children, the words flowing from a place of deep gratitude and love. Dear my sweet future children, by the time you read this, you will already know so many stories about your grandparents, but let me tell you the most important one in my own words. Your grandmother Elena was a young girl from Puerto Rico who moved to a new town and found a crying boy in an empty gym. She didn't laugh at him or walk away. She sat down, listened, and believed in him when the whole world said he was too small, too skinny, not good enough. That boy was your grandfather Michael. She gave him a notebook filled with messages of hope and encouragement. She sat in the bleachers and cheered for him. She loved him with a love so strong that it lasted through 43 years of separation, through pain, through secrets, and through illness. Your grandfather carried that belief in his heart for decades. He became the greatest basketball player the world had ever seen. But he never forgot the girl who saw him first. When he finally came back, he found not only the love of his life, but also a daughter he never knew he had. Me. The journey wasn't easy. There were hospital rooms, scary diagnoses, family tensions, and moments when it felt like everything might fall apart. But they chose each other again and again. They built a home. They created the Believe Foundation to help single mothers and families fighting cancer. They showed me what real strength, forgiveness, and unconditional love look like. I hope you never forget where you come from. You come from people who kept promises even when it took a lifetime. You come from a love that refused to die. When life gets hard, and it will, remember the oak tree in our backyard. Remember the carved initials that survived storms and seasons. Remember that belief is the most powerful force in the world. It can give someone wings. It can bring someone home. It can heal what seems broken beyond repair. I love you already, even before you are here. I promise to believe in you the way my parents believed in me. I promise to be there for you the way they finally got to be there for each other. Keep dreaming big. Keep loving deeply. Keep believing. With all my heart and endless gratitude, your mom, Sophia. Sophia closed the notebook gently and ran her fingers over the cover. She imagined the day when her own children would read these words and feel the same warmth and strength she felt now. She wiped a tear from her eye and smiled, feeling deeply connected to the long line of love that had brought her here. Meanwhile, in the peaceful backyard garden of the family home in Wilmington, Michael and Elena sat close together on their favorite bench under the old oak tree. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft oranges, pinks, and purples. Birds sang quietly in the branches above them. They had spent the afternoon writing a joint letter together, one they planned to seal in a special wooden box and bury near the roots of the tree for future generations to find one day. Michael read the final version aloud in his deep, warm voice, holding Elena's hand the whole time. To our beloved children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all those who will come after us, We want you to know the most important truth we learned in our long lives. Love endures. It survives time, distance, mistakes, heartbreak, and even serious illness. Your grandmother, Elena, believed in a skinny, uncertain boy when the coach cut him from the team and the world said he would never make it. She saw greatness in him before he saw it in himself. She gave him a simple blue notebook filled with words of encouragement that he carried with him for 43 years. Your grandfather, Michael, carried her photo in his wallet through championships, fame, fortune, and 2 failed marriages. He never forgot the promise he made under this very oak tree. When he finally came back, he found not only the love of his life, but also a beautiful daughter he never knew existed. The road was not easy. There were tears, anger, hospital rooms, scary diagnoses, family tensions, and moments when hope felt very far away. But they chose forgiveness. They chose belief. They chose each other every single day. They built a home filled with laughter and grandchildren. They created the Believe Foundation to help single mothers and families facing cancer. They showed the world that it is never too late for second chances. We want you to remember this. Never be afraid to fight for the people you love. Never be afraid to keep your promises, even when it takes decades. Belief is the strongest force we know. It gave us wings when we needed to fly. It gave us roots when we needed to stand strong. It brought us back together when the world tried to keep us apart. Keep believing in each other. Keep loving deeply. Keep showing up. The oak tree still stands as a witness to our story. Let it remind you that some things, the best things, are worth waiting for and worth fighting for. With endless love and gratitude for the beautiful life we were given together, Michael and Elena Jordan. They folded the letter carefully, placed it inside the small wooden box, along with a copy of the old photo and a pressed flower from the garden, and buried it gently near the roots of the oak tree. Michael put his arm around Elena, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky change colors. The story of their lives seemed to play out in a gentle closing montage. The oak tree stood strong and beautiful through every season, covered in white blossoms in spring, lush green in summer, brilliant gold and red in autumn, and dusted with snow in winter. Children laughed and played beneath its branches in every season. Elena and Michael, now with more gray hair but the same loving light in their eyes, walked hand in hand along the garden paths they had created. Sophia graduated with honors, got married, and had beautiful children of her own. The Believe Foundation continued to grow, touching thousands of lives across the country. Laughter, tears of joy, quiet moments of reflection, and loud family celebrations filled the years that followed. Through it all, the old oak tree remained a silent, steadfast witness, a living symbol of promises kept, love that refused to die, and belief that could change everything. And as the stars began to appear in the evening sky, the camera of memory seemed to pull back slowly, leaving Michael and Elena sitting peacefully under the tree, hands still joined, hearts still full, love still enduring. If this story touched your heart, remember that it's never too late to keep a promise, to believe in someone, or to fight for a second chance at love and family. Drop your city or country in the comments below and tell us what you believe in most. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another heartwarming story of hope, redemption, and unbreakable love. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible true story style tale that might just restore your faith in humanity. Thank you for watching, for believing, and for being part of this journey with us. Some promises really are worth waiting a lifetime for. The end.